Namaskar. Welcome to Honest Astrology YouTube channel, and today we will talk about Rahu in the first and Ketu in the seventh. I call this placement the Great Dictator. Kurt Cobain once said, "I don't care what you think unless it is about me." This is what defines Rahu in the first. So you need to understand what Rahu is. Rahu is a severed head of a demon. Okay, it's all head and legs of heart. And one very important thing I want to tell you, the conventional wisdom says Rahu hates sun and moon. It's partially true. Rahu hates the moon. Rahu loves the sun. Okay. Rahu wants to become the sun. Sun is his hero, his role model. Okay. So sun is the king and Rahu is a gangster. Okay. So Rahu has to become the king. That's his problem. That is why he tries too hard. Okay. So first house is the house of self. I call it throne of the chart. In this house, the planet is out for everybody to see. Okay. And the native will show the qualities and appearance of that planet. For example, Venus in the first, you'll find very pretty looking people. Shani in the first, you will find people who are little grumpy and little sad looking. Similarly, Rahu and Ketu in the first, they will show their different aspects and nature to the native. One, I must add a caveat. Please do not come and tell me I have Rahu plus this planet, so I am not like that. Two planets coming together will create a very different kind of energy. Okay. Shani in the first will be a very fearful person. Shani Mars in the first would be a daredevil. So let's keep that in mind and let's see what Rahu does in the first house. Okay. So Rahu in the first makes a native self-obsessed. Rahu tries very hard to be the king. Sun is the king. Sun knows it. He doesn't have to prove it. Rahu has to prove. Kaise nahi manoge, I am the king. That is why Rahu is the politician. Kings will never contest elections. One example, shining example of Sun in the first was Bala Saheb Thackeray never contested an election himself. Rahu in the first, I won't take names. Okay. So seventh is the house of partners and other people. Ketu sitting here makes a person oblivious to the partner and their needs. And Rahu makes them self-obsessed. Okay, me, myself, and I. So what happens when a gangster politician takes the throne? He doesn't become the king, he becomes the great dictator. Okay. He knows he doesn't have the legitimacy, but that will make him try extra hard to prove himself. Okay. They can be very uncompromising towards life. They're typically very tall, lean, and attractive. Okay. Now, in order to make them appear majestic, Rahu will give his children a tall body and long limbs. Okay. And they look a little stretched. If anybody has read The Fountainhead, there is this character called Gale Wayland, and his nickname is Stretch Wayland. So he is a typical Rahu in the first character. So since Rahu is a severed head without a torso, these people can eat whatever they want, they never get fat. I am yet to meet a fat person with Rahu in the first house. Do not tell me a Rahu Jupiter in the first house. There will be fat people. But Rahu alone in the first house will never be fat. So a head can eat all that he wants. The torso will not be nourished. So they are good looking and tall and they look a little royal. And they have this hypnotic personality. Now talking of hypnotism, they have snake eyes. They have very sharp piercing eyes. They have a smoky, brownish, often brownish I've seen that like that of snake. Very hypnotizing. And such people either have Scorpio Lagna or Rahu in the first. And Rahu has that razor sharp glance. Okay. So their gaze can be hypnotizing, but it's very rarely endearing. These guys are not the most popular people in the town. They are often the people who are shunned by others. So Rahu, Shani in the first are social disasters. Rahu in the first can be unpleasantly bossy. Sun in the first is warm and noble. Is the king. Rahu tries to outdo Sun at everything, so they become very dictatorial. Sun has a laid back arrogance. Rahu has an in your face arrogance. And he tries to dominate everybody. So Sun in the first are fairly popular with their downline. Rahu in the first, if you send them to lead a team, there would be a revolution against them. Okay. They are invariably unpopular and they make dictatorial bosses and make difficult partners. I always tell Rahu Shani in the first people, boss, do not try to lead a bloody team. Stay to individual contributor roles. That is where you will shine. When you have to do technical work, but there should be minimum public interaction. They make good teachers, by the way. Again, they have control of the class. Another thing, these guys are structured and technically brilliant. This is one place where Rahu beats the Sun. Sun is very chilled out. He is not much into details. Sun is a big picture planet. Rahu is the master of structures, right from computing to accounting. These guys make very good accountants, engineers, finance people, and almost always they have some sort of a technical knowledge. They make very good mechanics. They can work long and hard. Sun is a lazy planet. He cannot work very hard. But they are also very organized. Sun is a holy mess. So on these two counts, Rahu wins. And they love machines and structures, but they suck with people. Okay. They have the superhuman ability to stay focused on a technical thing, which makes them brilliant. So you will find these people in accounting, IT and mechanical departments. Wherever something technical has to be, they also make great scientists, at times great philosophers. J. Krishnamurti had Rahu in the first. Genius, but single guy, never married. And he was not very popular. Another problem with Rahu in the first is that they have a huge ego. Remember, he has to outdo Sun. Sun in the first is egotistic. Rahu in the first is egomaniac. Sun is secure. He knows he is the center of the solar system. So Rahu fancies himself not as just the center of solar system. He fancies himself center of the universe. So according to these people, everything is personal. सब कुछ निजी है. Tax laws बनाए गए मेरे लिए. जो दुकानदार है, they are in my awe. My bosses are talking about me, my relatives are talking about me, my XYZ are talking about me. It's always about them. And they are very convinced about this. Okay, Rahu gives them a sort of narcissism. You give them a compliment, they will double down the compliment. You tell a lady with Rahu in the first, ma'am, you have cooked great food. I always cook great food. Sir, ये आपने अच्छा किया. अरे मैं तो हमेशा ही अच्छा करता हूँ. That's Rahu in the first. If it is the thin man who's doubling down your compliments, that's Rahu in the first. Another thing, Rahu in the first is very enemy-centric, always ready for war. Mangal and Rahu are two generals. Okay, so Mars is the general of the Devas, Rahu is the commander-in-chief of the demons. So king is worried about the subjects, the commander-in-chief is worried about the enemy. So Rahu has in the first has a penchant for making enemies and then declaring war. Okay, they can sit and brood over things and they would plan revenge in various ways, and they usually have enough and more enemies for one lifetime because they have abrasive personalities. Another thing which I've seen is with Rahu in the first is a troubled marriage. So Ketu in the seventh makes them blind to other person's point of view. They genuinely fail to understand other people, and this leads to conflict in marriage. They are usually very self-obsessed, narcissistic. I have seen Rahu in the first in case of lifelong bachelors and a lot of divorcees. And this huge ego and narcissism and dictatorial tendencies are at the root cause of this. So until unless there is a calming influence of a Jupiter or a Venus in the chart, their married life is almost always trouble. Another thing, this is my personal favorite discovery. Rahu in the first will never admit that he's wrong. ऊपर वाला wrong हो सकता है, डोंग कभी wrong नहीं होता. If you have a Rahu in the first child, you will have a bloody tough time trying to make her say sorry. Sorry शब्द इनके मुंह से नहीं निकलता है. So there was this average movie called Tahelka. There is villain is Amrish Puri, and this was his dialogue. ऊपर वाला wrong हो सकता है, डोंग कभी wrong नहीं होता. So Dong was a dictator, okay, and he was very self-obsessed, and he would say even God can go wrong, Dong can never go wrong. That's Rahu in the first. And whenever in a consultation, if the husband and wife are together, and the moment I say this about the Rahu in the first person, the spouse howls with laughter because they are so used to, and even the native will give an uneasy chuckle, and that's real fun. So this is another point where Rahu is trying to outdo Sun. But again, they overdo it, and their narcissistic self-love and huge ego that prevents them from admitting their mistake. Another point, they have excellent ears. They listen to everything in 8D digital sound. If your phone is sitting next to you and it is ringing, you may not listen. The Rahu person sitting in the other room will listen to it. Rahu has a snake connection, and in India we have a muhavra saying "saap jaise kaan hai." They listen very strongly. So after all, Rahu is the head of the snake. Right? Another thing which I have seen is that they are hell bent upon proving themselves. It's always me, myself, and I. They are very socially conscious. They have to prove themselves. They don't have the confidence of the Sun. They have desperation of Rahu. So this is a stark contrast. Sun is convinced that it's his divine right. He doesn't care about other people's opinion. Rahu has to get other people's votes. That is why Sun is the king. King will never beg for votes. Rahu wants votes even if he has to booth capture your votes. So he has to convince other people how great he is. As a politician, he tries to kiss babies and hug old ladies. And not all Rahu first people are narcissistic dictators. So, you need to look at the whole chart before judging someone.